Oh man, we're back again. You know what? I feel exhausted. That last one was a fluke.
Mm.
We gotta try again because we went on a tangent. But what I originally wanted to talk about was knowledge. Knowledge. For my people perish for lack of knowledge. And now I'll ask you again. Just give me a brief summary as to why do you think God says my people perish for lack of knowledge?
Well, a brief summary of why he put that in there.
Why you think that? Why do God's people perish for lack of knowledge?
Because in my own personal life, there were things I didn't know. And because there were things I didn't know, I was suffering. And I feel like even though I was trying to do the right thing, I was trying to live the right way, it was, I was still suffering because there were things I didn't know and I didn't understand. Or principles I didn't apply to my life that maybe I knew the principle, but I didn't understand the purpose of the principle. So then didn't I didn't do it until I understood, oh, like this is why we don't steal from the grocery store kind of thing, you know? Not that I go stealing from the grocery store, I'm just using it as an analogy. Like, oh, well, because like when you're a little kid, you're like, well, what's wrong with just, I just want the toy. Like, why can't I put it in my pocket and walk out the door with it? Like, that's how kids can be. So,
Hey, I remember the first time I tried to steal something. I think the first time I ever tried to steal something was like some Super Mario gummy bears. And I remember that was the first time I ever been corrected on stealing something.
but
Keyword first time.
it's one of those things like when you're young, you don't understand. You know you're not supposed to do it, but you don't understand why. You don't understand the principles associated with what could happen if you steal, or why it's just not nice to steal from other people. Things like
Right.
that.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because I think knowledge is one of those things where many times we often ignore it, where our only main focus is just to have knowledge of God and knowledge of, trying of not to sin, just knowledge of our sin, knowledge of scripture, knowledge of just anything basically spiritual. And these are all good things to have knowledge about, but then we ignore knowledge in other areas of our life that as soon as we need to have knowledge and someone promotes the idea that you need knowledge in other areas of your life, right when you start talking about the physical realm, it's an automatic no-no.
Mm-hmm.
And my people perish for lack of knowledge. Very interesting. Now, okay, great. We might need to go into more historical context into all of that. But that statement, though, even if that statement wasn't even in the Bible, it's still true.
Exactly, I agree.
And my people perish for lack of knowledge. It makes me think to myself, I'm like, wow, if you tell someone, hey, look, I'm going to say something that this might make a lot of people like, what are you talking about? The Bible doesn't say that. That's not true. That's a lie. You're preaching false doctrine. You're preaching prosperity gospel. You're giving people too much hope. You're giving people false hope. You're giving people, uh, 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 that's only about God. It's only about the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the gospel. Okay, brother, I love you. I understand. But how are you going to pay your bills? Is God going to pay your bills? Let me ask you, is God going to pay your bills?
That's what I was raised to believe.
God paid your bills?
Well, when I was a kid, you just pray and then that check comes in the mail. You pray and you've got a bowl of beans for dinner.
It just showed up.
It just appeared. Like you've got it. I mean, we had 50 pennies and we could go buy some food and make it into a meal for a big family. Not really. But it was that kind of a concept of, you just, money's tight, we'll figure it out. God's gonna provide the money.
I
Yeah.
got you. Well,
But I don't think it's necessarily that way
there
anymore.
are things that are self-evident that I think there are things that are self-evident that I think we all know, and I often talk about how people a lot of legalistic type Christians will say something along the lines of a punchline where you'd be like, "Hey, brother, I'm gonna go exercise. I've been trying to take care of my body and get muscular and take care of my physical health and stretch and get my heart rate good and do some cardio." And all they heard was the word exercise, exercise, exercise. And then their brain, they go into the data into their brain. They find that word exercise somewhere that they remembered it in the Bible. Bzz, and then all of a sudden they come across a scripture that they remember. And then they're like, wait, brother, but the Bible says for bodily exercise profits little.
But doesn't the Bible also say to honor God with your body?
But my question to that person would be like, no, I don't even need to quote a scripture back to you. My response is, did you seriously just try to attempt to quote that passage to try to tell this brother over here not to take care of his physical health? Did you just try that just now?
Yeah, that's what it would have been.
And so that's where I want to get at, like the where if you're talking about God and you're having a Bible study and you see different scriptures in the Bible and you see how God likes to keep secrets. And that's something that intrigues me a lot. Why does God like to keep secrets? Why did Christ conceal important information behind a parable? How come when you read Proverbs, you see that even King Solomon uses analogies? And then King Solomon, and this is something that before we had a fluke, I was trying to make a point about a certain passage. These two are Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of King Hezekiah of Judah copied. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter and the glory of kings to investigate a matter. Think about that. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, conceal, hide.
But why?
It's God's glory. He likes it. He likes to hide things from you, and then he likes for you to have to go and look for it. Well, anyways, so going back to the idea of my people perish for a lack of knowledge. Wait, and there's certain information out there, certain knowledge out there that God hides. You ever thought about that? I don't know.
I haven't thought about it that much, but that, like, I knew the verse, but I never thought about it much.
And
Because that's interesting.
it tells you to get knowledge. It tells you my people perish for lack of knowledge. But then it also tells you that knowledge will puff you up. But you need knowledge. And God hides knowledge, and he wants you to go and look for that knowledge. But he doesn't want you to become prideful when you find that knowledge.
So why?
So let's go into a little bit more depth. Now, these are all things straight out of your Bible. And the thing that blows my mind about it is if God likes to hide things from you, what is it that you will discover? And now I'm going to go talking about my personal life from when I was a very legalistic Christian to transitioning to a free man in Christ. So there are a lot of things that are just completely self-evident, such as that idea of God wants your physical health. He wants you to be in shape.
Mm-hmm.
right? That's why Christ healed people. God is concerned about your physical health.
That is really true. Very true.
Then the next thing is, but not all the time is God going to just give you a miracle. And you and I had a conversation probably last week, I think, where you discussed how your weight loss journey, it took a grind. It was a grind, one thing, but
Mm-hmm.
then when you started hitting plateaus, you needed to get new knowledge and new information on how to take care of your health.
Exactly.
And it reminds me of that passage, my people perish for lack of knowledge. You were literally destroying yourself at one point in your life because of information that you did not have. Your ignorance was
Mm-hmm.
destroying you. You didn't know how to take care of yourself.
Right.
And now, again, like I said, I'm like, even if that passage was not in the Bible, it's true, even if it wasn't in the Bible, that your lack of knowledge was destroying your physical health.
Mm-hmm.
Before I move on, any thoughts on that?
I think it's true. And whenever it says, like, where you said the knowledge can puff you up,
Mhm.
I was like, before I started on my journey towards weight loss, when I was at the largest that I was, the most overweight that I've been, I was like, I thought I knew everything.
Mhm.
And I would do things because it felt good. And to me that was knowledge, like, oh, I deserve whatever, the whole giant pizza at one time if I wanted to. Like whatever it is, I would do it because I thought that this is what I should do because whatever reasoning that I had. And to
Right.
me that was knowledge. And it puffed me up and it ended up hurting me more than
Mm.
helping me until I gained knowledge about, oh, whenever I eat this kind of food, this is what happens. And this is how it's actually damaging my physical health and my mental health.
Right.
So
Okay.
I agree. And I think there's sometimes you think you have knowledge. And maybe you do have knowledge in certain areas, but that knowledge it really does. It puffs you up because you don't have a full understanding.
Right. Well, now you may notice that there's a ton of books sitting up here, and it's like, why? Why would I have a ton of books sitting up here? And this is what do you guys calling this? A Bible study? Well, the reason I bring this up is because I love how Proverbs talks about having a multitude of counselors, and I love actually this guy right here, Myron Golden, who wrote this book called Boss Moves. I love when he talks about wisdom. And he has seminars on his YouTube channel where he talks about King Solomon. And I love how when he talks about wisdom, he talks about how wisdom is a skill, and the only way you can have wisdom is if you have understanding, and the only way you can have understanding is if you have knowledge, and you need knowledge. The way you get knowledge is an accumulation of information. You have to accumulate a lot of information, and then you have to try to understand that stuff, that information. And if you can understand the information, then you can take action,
Mm-hmm.
which is wisdom. And you look at the life of King Solomon, and he was a consultant to the monarchs. He was a consultant to kings and queens, and people of other countries, and people who had businesses, and people who had a lot of money and wealth. He was a consultant to them, and then they paid him a yearly fee to help them solve their problems. And when you think about that, it's like, hold on a second. Was King Solomon just quoting the Bible to these people?
No.
I
Because the Bible wasn't written yet. They had the Torah.
mean,
But
and he was just a man
mm-hmm.
who was filled with God, and God gave him wisdom. And some of his proverbs and some of his wisdom was written down for us to read in a book. But how did it word it? He had more wisdom than every grain of sand on the earth, the amount of sand there was on earth. How does that go? Let me look it up. I'm gonna look it up. You remember?
No, I don't remember.
Or am I just making that up? Maybe I'm just making that up. Maybe someone else said that. I don't know. Let me see.
That would be a lot of wisdom.
King Solomon had more wisdom, sand on earth. Keywords. Let me look. It just came to my mind. Ooh, what does it say here? Ooh. God gave Solomon wisdom and every great insight and a breadth of understanding as measureless as the sand on the seashore. Let me see another one, another translation. New King James. And God gave Solomon wisdom exceedingly great, understanding, and largeness of heart like the sand on the seashore. Very intriguing. Now it's like, wait a sec. How many proverbs are there? I mean,
A lot.
right, but that's less sand
He
on the
did.
seashore.
Maybe he didn't share everything.
Yeah, I think he kept some secrets.
Hmm.
Nah, but on one of the Bible studies, I brought up the idea of how he was presented with a situation where he had one woman who kidnapped another woman's child because she accidentally killed her own child in her sleep. And when King Solomon had to solve this issue, he couldn't just open up the Bible and just figure out like, okay, what does the Bible say about a woman kidnapping another woman's child because she accidentally killed her own child? Which verse is that? He had that wisdom. And so, but that the wisdom that came to his mind, it wasn't something that was a Bible passage. It was just something that was organic. It was discernment. And there's all these different areas of our life that we can have wisdom. You have discernment, you have wisdom in business, wisdom in relationships, wisdom in finance, wisdom with your physical health, wisdom with how you deal with people. There's so much wisdom that you can have, and wisdom. And King Solomon had a way of telling analogies by discussing animals and plants to try to make sense of the world so that the person reading it, they can understand principles. And it talks about how wisdom is the principal thing. And then you look at a guy like Miles Monroe, and he always talks about principles. You need to understand principles. And the Bible has principles in it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are principles outside of the Bible. And when you think about like scientific, like the law of gravity.
Gravity doesn't exist.
Yeah, the law of gravity. Or when you talk about a plane flying, there are certain principles that you have to obey in order to make a plane fly.
Mm-hmm.
Or there are certain principles that you have to obey to make a car drive. There are certain principles that you have to obey so that you won't have cancer. If you're eating too much McDonald's, you're probably going to get cancer. Who knows? Or have a heart attack. There are principles.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bible's not going to list all that out on how to do that. But, and I like how Myron Golden talks about how God has ingrained principles within the fabric of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I'm going to pause there. Any thoughts so far?
I don't have any thoughts. I agree with what you're saying.
You agree with me? All right.
I agree. I do approve. No, because it makes sense with the principles. I don't know. I used to be somebody who's just everything's just black and white. There's good and there's bad. And then you start learning about principles and you realize, oh, there's just a way that the world works. Like, there's a way that God made things to work. And if you follow the principles, then good things will happen in your life. You'll see the right way to go. If you aren't following those principles, you're going to be struggling. So to me, I'm like, yes, there's right and there's wrong, but it's not as legalistic as as I used to think it was
Mhm.
with life.
Yeah. And so when people say like, what do you mean that there's principles in relationships? What do you mean by that? Principles? And one principle would be, if you want friends, then be a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait, that's a principle. That's a principle on relationship. That's psychology,
Yes.
right? And so you have people who, they'll read that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I haven't gone through the whole thing yet. I've gone through some of it, but it's so good. I'm like, well, okay, that's crazy. But then you can have principles in marriage, finance, physical health. Say, hold on a second. I remember a principle that I needed to learn when it came to relationships was, how do you understand the mind of a woman? Because I just thought women, they just think like dudes, right? Like, can't I just treat you like a dude? Can't you just play video games with me?
Mm.
Can't we just hang out? Just talk a bunch of mess? It's like, no, I mean, you could do that with your homies. You could probably do that with a girl, but typically, a girl's not really going to think that way. And like, unless you grew up with your mother in your life or sisters, it might be a little bit harder for you to understand women like me when
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with only dudes. Bunch of brothers, an uncle, a dad, and my grandpa all in one house at times. So like no female in sight. So by the time as a young man, I'm over here trying to talk to a female. I'm just talking to her like a guy. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
what's up? Just like nothing wrong with saying, hey, what's up, but just but they tend to be more emotional and stuff. And I remember like as a young man, I'm like, dude, are girls, are they all just crazy? Are they emotional? Like what? Why are they so sensitive? What's wrong with y'all? Until I came across a guy like Miles Monroe who helped me to understand, hey, men and women are created in the image of God, but you're not the same. It's like, wait, come on, man. This is complicated. So I needed knowledge. So I read his book, The Purpose and Power of Men. God's design for male identity. But then I read the lesser one, The Purpose and Power. No, I'm just messing. I read The Purpose and Power of Women too. It's just a joke. Not a misogynist.
The way you say that. And those books are really good. They gave me, when I read through them, they gave me so much information on understanding myself as a woman, because even women understand they can be complicated. But then to also understand men and how God designed men and women differently, but to help each other.
Right. Yeah. And when I started reading those books, Purpose and Power of Men, Purpose and Power of Women, Purpose and Power of
Another good one.
Love and Marriage. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Starting to understand how women think. And then having a female friend in my life who hops on the podcast, who I've known for a while. I'm like, oh, you don't think like a dude.
No.
Why? Why did you decide to be a woman?
I wasn't given a choice.
Oh, okay. Well, if you could be a man, would you be a man?
No.
Don't answer these questions. I'm being sarcastic.
I'm like, is that a real question? Do I need to think on that one?
Why are you letting me give you a hard time? All right. So understanding people better, understanding females better as a man, and then you understanding men better. So then I'm over here struggling with my finances and my bills, and I got these aspirations and things that I would like to do in my life, but I'm worried if it's a sin because I lack knowledge. And then I was bad with money, and I just didn't even know how to manage my money. And I thought that in order to be financially stable, I thought that I just needed to be so rich and wealthy to a point that even if I spent $1 million, I'd still have money. Like I could I thought that just being wealthy would just solve all my problems when it came to money. But then I realized, I'm like, wait a second. If I became really good at managing my money, even with the little that I have, and I work my way up in a company, and I bust my butt, and I be a professional, and I come to serve, and I work as if I'm working for the Lord, and then I start applying principles of business and treat their company as if it's my business. And then they put me in a position where I am one of the highest paid employees amongst the whole company. I'm like, oh, wow. And that happened because I read a book like this called The Richest Man Who Ever Lived, King Solomon's Secrets to Success, Wealth, and Happiness. And I started applying the principles, not just from this book, but it talks about biblical principles, Proverbs. And this guy, he talks about how when he started applying the Proverbs in his life, actually applying it, not just reading it, but applying it, and reading the book, reading a chapter in Proverbs every day for 2 years and applying those principles, he said over time he became a millionaire.
That's amazing.
Right. And I'm like, no way. So the very little that I did, I'm working at some job, making very little money. And then I got a new job somewhere else. I started applying all of King Solomon's principles. It worked. Moved my way up in the company. I'm like, wait a second. Before, I'm over here thinking, I got to go to college. I got to do all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. But it reminds me of that passage where King Solomon says that even a spider or a lizard, even a spider, it's easy to catch with your hands, but it can be found in a king's palace. And now, any ideas what that means? We've talked about it.
We talked about
What comes to your mind?
Well,
I'll tell you what comes to my mind. Will you tell me what comes to your mind?
well, after we've had time to talk about it a little bit and I've had time to think about it, I now have a better concept.
Okay.
Because before it was, well, this is just a simple fact.
King Solomon, with all his wisdom, he was like, you know that even spiders are. You could even find a spider in a castle.
I saw one the other day. Like that. That's kind of like what it
Like,
is.
oh, okay, great to know, King Solomon. Okay, next piece of wisdom.
And then everybody's like, "Oh yes, the king said it. Let's write it down. Write it down. Hurry, hurry, hurry!" Like that. That's what I thought it was.
Okay.
So, but no, it's like the spider doesn't really belong in the castle. And so when it's over, like it gets in there and makes a home.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it also lives out its purpose. The spider is there to catch other bugs that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Kings don't want no insects in their palace, but somehow a spider used its gift, used its talent, found a place to stay, made a home in a place that it didn't even belong at. It used its gift. And I love how King Solomon talks about how a man's gift makes room for him in the world. And I'm over here like, okay, shoot, if I start applying these principles, I got a job that I'm not even qualified for. And when I first got hired, I was the youngest guy. And so that was like one of the things where that was something that they hang over my head, that it was something that I'm the youngest guy and I'm not qualified for it. All these other guys are all ex-military, police officers, currently police officers still, but also, doing this job that we do, bodyguards and stuff. But because of my professionalism and my knowledge and the way I hold myself, they're like, dude, we'll put you right in. The company called me and they said that I was actually the first person that they called before they even contacted these other guys that are actually more qualified than me.
Wow.
And as a result of applying principles to my life. That's what happened. Now, if someone's like, no, brother, like these principle things that you're talking about is not true. I'm like, I'm a witness to this, that there are principles. So now with that in mind, we often think that principles can only be found in the Bible, but that's why I bring up the point of relationships and business and different things, because principles are found within the fabric of the universe. Like, even if the Bible didn't say, if you want friends, be a friend. Even if it didn't say that, it would still be true.
Right.
Treat others the way you be treated, the way you want to be treated. Like, if you want to be treated well, treat people well. Even if the Bible didn't say that, it's true.
Exactly.
It only became true now because Christ said it. Like, no, he's telling you something that's a truth that already exists. This is how life was designed. And so, and I love, like, if you talk about scientific principles, when people say that they discovered some new scientific fact, yeah, they discovered it, meaning it was something that was hidden. It was already there. It always existed. Anything that Albert Einstein found and discovered, we kind of treat scientists as if they are the ones who created principles.
Right.
The laws of physics. We treat them like they created that. Say, no, the laws of physics, God created the laws of physics. Now, the Bible doesn't talk about the laws of physics, but he put the laws in there within the fabric of the universe. So anyways, back to my point. Any other thoughts?
Well, I had a client a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about Albert Einstein and other things that were discovered. And she's like, wait, if I go back in time, then I could just like drop this pencil and say, look, this is gravity, and then I become famous? And I was like, well, kind of, but
Right.
She's like, it took them how long to figure out that gravity?
Oh, things fall. We don't know how to measure what gravity is. We don't know how to measure it. We don't even know what it is. But we've given it a title. And we got rich off of it.
Right.
So, all right. So you have principles in marriage, principles in business. Oh, I love this book, Overcoming Crisis. The Secrets to Thriving in Challenging Times by Dr. Miles Monroe. Hook point. Now, okay, great. Hook point. How to stand out in a 3-second world. It's like, wait a second. This book is not written by a Christian.
But it's a good book. It's a good book.
At least I don't think he's a Christian, to my knowledge.
What's the name again?
Hook Point. How to Stand Out in a 3-Second World by Brendan Kane. Great book,
I
though.
don't know.
And the reason why I say it's a great book is because just because the guy may or may not believe in God, the principles in this book work for business people. But it's interesting. Did he create these principles? Or did he discover them? This guy right here, Dan Kennedy and Adam Whitty, Book the Business: How to Make Big Money with Your Book Without Even Selling a Single Copy. I went through this book. Great book. Basically, it's a book on how to sell your books. And people use this, and then they sell their books, and they get rich, and they get wealthy from selling their books because they follow the principles laid out in this book. But these principles already exist. Expert secrets. Okay, hold on. 10x rule. Be like, wait a second. This book really talks about how to manage your time. And if you're looking through this book, you will see things in this book that correlate with the Bible. It's like, but how is that even possible? And I've like I said, I've probably gone through this book more than 30 times. And I love the idea of how he says, whatever it is that you're trying to do, let's just say like money, for example, whatever it is that you're trying to do. If you're trying to make an extra $1,000 a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, instead of aiming for $1,000 a month, why don't you try to work and make 10,000 a month? Like whatever it is that you're trying to do, times it by 10 and then work 10 times harder to get that goal. Now, okay, great. It's just a concept. What he's really saying is bust your butt.
Mm-hmm.
It's a principle. It's like, hey, now we have scriptures that line out certain things where it talks about lazy people and it talks about people who are diligent in their work. And in throughout Proverbs, the separation between diligent people and lazy people would be, it almost like demonizes people that are lazy, calling them wicked, calling them fools, calling them all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. And sluggards.
Sluggards. Says they're not wise. They'll be in their home talking about there's a lion in the street,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no lion. They're worried about things that don't even exist.
Right.
But then a diligent person talks about how he works with their hands. They build things. There talks about having the axe. And if you sharpen the axe, if you try to cut down a tree with a dull axe, that's not wise. But if you sharpen that axe, you cut down the tree faster and more efficiently. And that's a principle. It's like, wait, why would he share that principle? It's because he's not just talking about cutting trees down, but he's talking about if you got knowledge on how to sharpen your axe, it's easier to cut the tree down. Or in other words, whatever work that you're trying to do, if you can sharpen your skills, sharpen your knowledge, your understanding, your wisdom, the work that you're doing will be easier. And when I say this stuff, and it's like, it just sounds too good to be true, where wisdom is supposed to make life easier. Now, when I tell people that, people are like, what? No, that's not true. Dude, read Proverbs.
But I feel dumb because I never thought of that, even that verse in that way. Because again, you sharpen the axe. Like that makes perfect sense. You sharpen your skills, and then whatever work you're doing, it's going to be easier. That makes sense, but I've never thought about it that way. It was another one where you read it and it's kind of like, oh, look, there's a spider in the castle. It's like, hey, you're out there trying to cut the wood down so you can build my castle taller and you're using a dull axe.
You know what? Go ahead and talk. I'm going to go grab my Proverbs notes.
Okay. And so you're over there, you're trying to, those are the things that how I've read Proverbs most of my life. And there's some principles I can understand. But when you're over here reading something about spiders and lizards in the castle, it just, am I the only one who thinks this way? That he's just making a simple observation. Or maybe one night he had a fight with one of his wives and he's like, it's better to live on the corner of a roof than to share a house with a quarrelsome and ill-tempered wife. Like maybe they just had a fight. Like that there were things I didn't understand from Proverbs. That when you figure out what the principle means, looking at it in the sense of a parable instead of just facts that somebody stated, I think it makes it easier to understand.
Yeah. Well, I wrote down in my journal Proverbs, principles that I got out of certain Proverbs.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone through some of these before in another video. So I'm not going to start from the beginning of my notes. I'm probably going to just start somewhere in the middle. I don't know. But Proverbs 4, verse 23. Actually, you know what? All of these, I'm not even going to say what passage. I'm not even going to say what passage I'm getting these from because I really, I really, I don't want to do the work for everybody else. I want, if someone sees this video, don't share this video with anybody. Don't tell your friends. Keep this private. There's just, don't even subscribe to this channel unless you really want to, because this is, it's kind of a one-sided relationship you and I are having, one-sided friendship that we're having. But yeah, don't tell anybody about this because God likes to keep secrets sometimes. And so I'm keeping a secret now. I'm going to keep secrets. I'm not going to tell you where I got these proverbs from, but I'm going to tell you the principle that I got out of it. And then I wrote down out of it. And then you go and find it for yourself to see if you can find these principles in there. So one of the principles that I got out of Proverbs is do everything to protect your mind because this is where life happens. Another one, it's not good for bad things to come out of your mouth. Another one, exalt wisdom and she shall exalt you. Oh, I put a question mark on that because that was one that I needed to study. Oh, here's one. Now, some of these ones are kind of on morals. Never enter into a relationship with an immoral woman. It will destroy your life. Save your purity for your wife and when you're young. Okay, here we go. Study the ant. It prepares for the future without anyone telling it to. Prepares for the future without anyone telling it to. Don't sleep too much or be lazy. This is a poverty behavior that guarantees you'll be poor. Another one that I got was, whatever you do, wisdom will guide you, protect you in the moment. Wisdom is more important than anything that can be desired. Wisdom brings power and royal power and authority. Seek wisdom early and it will be found. Riches and honor come with wisdom. Kind of like King Solomon. Yeah. What wisdom can produce is better than just money. So it'll make you rich, but what it can produce is also better than money. Wisdom will cause a person to inherit substance, something tangible, physical. No, our riches are only in heaven. Wait a second. Wisdom will cause a person to inherit substance and nice things. They will be given treasure. You look at King Solomon. That's exactly what happened to him. You try to figure out, okay, did God just hand him wealth? Like, okay, he became the wisest, wealthiest man on earth. Did God just hand it to him?
Mm-mm.
Why would King Solomon say get a multitude of counselors if he already had wisdom? How come in Ecclesiastes, he talks about how he searched out wisdom? Didn't he search for it as well?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I thought God already gave him all the wisdom, but his wisdom caused him to even search for even more wisdom. Very interesting. God used wisdom to create everything. Oh, let me go back to that other point when I was saying, did God just hand him wealth? Well, no. King Solomon was giving wise advice to kings and queens and monarchs, and they would pay him a yearly fee to give him wisdom, for him to give them wisdom on how to run their countries. And they paid him for that. They brought him all kinds of treasures and gold and animals and resources. Interesting, because of his wisdom. God used wisdom to create everything. Oh, even God used wisdom? The man who gets wisdom daily will be blessed. Whoever finds wisdom will have an amazing life, and God himself will favor him. Don't correct evil people. It will hurt you. Only correct those who are wise and righteous, and they will love you more. What? That's a principle that I got out of it.
I know which verse it is.
Yeah. Why? Because you're reading it?
No, I
or
can't.
just off the top of your head?
I just know where it came from.
All right, another one. Those who prepare ahead of time and save are wise. It's another principle that I got out of Proverbs. Wise people speak life and wisdom. A man's riches, wealth protects him. That's a principle that I got out of Proverbs. Now, there's a lot of warnings on wealth in the Bible. There is. But one principle that I got out of it, because obviously, like I said, you have to get knowledge, but then the Bible also warns you about getting knowledge. It says it'll make you prideful. You need to get it, but it'll make you prideful. And then it's also like, talks about wealth and how wealth comes with wisdom, but there's also warnings on wealth. Just because there's a warning doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the thing that it's warning you about. Another principle that I got out of Proverbs is, I wrote down something when I was studying King Solomon. I wrote down, I noticed that it appears to be that Solomon used his artistry and accomplishments as a marketing tool to get attention. That's something that I noticed. From there, why did I write it like this? This is over a year ago. From there, I barely read my writing. He had consulting clients, spoke of agriculture and various other things. When he was paid, he took the resources and invested into real estate. When they paid him, he took his resources and invested into real estate.
And when you say he was like artistry, because he did all this architecture, like, yes, he had people doing the work for him, but he had a way that he wanted, like the castle design, his palace design, the ways he wanted the temple designed. Like, he had the designs planned out. He just hired other people to do it. So that's interesting when you point that out.
Yeah. Oh, I also wrote down he gave for free first. He gave freely at first.
How?
I don't know if you at first or not. I may need to go back. So some of this stuff I gotta reanalyze why I wrote down certain things. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna ask you where you got that from.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, no, I have to relook at a lot of this stuff. Okay, righteous people's lives are enhanced by their labor and wealth. That's a principle that I got out of Proverbs. And look, man, I understand, dude, why people are like, dude, yes, get wisdom from above, get spiritual wisdom, get wisdom from God. Of course, I understand. But as soon as you start talking about the physical realm, oh my goodness, people just demonize that, man. And you look at Proverbs, and it's as if we've taken the book of Proverbs and we've just put it to the side and said, that's the Old Testament. But these are principles that goes beyond whether it's Old Testament or New Testament, because principles exist whether there's an Old Testament or New Testament. Even if the Bible didn't exist, these are principles, and it says wisdom is the principal thing.
Right.
Very intriguing to me. Now, next. So I'm going to read that part again. Righteous people's lives are enhanced by their labor and wealth. What? When you talk too much, you make mistakes. Wise people restrain their mouth. The words of the righteous are valuable. Any thoughts so far?
No, I like that other one that you just said. The one about people talking too much. Because I used to be a person who talked a lot. And then I would see how it would get me in trouble.
Right.
Because I would talk more than I needed to instead of just being quiet and listening and trying to understand other people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Being slow to speak, slow to get angry. When you talk too much, you make mistakes. Wise people restrain their mouth. That's something that I've had to practice. And I'm confessing I've gotten a lot better at it. Like, I remember there was a point in my life where if someone said something that I disagreed with, I was just freaking just antsy to just respond and just say something back or whatever. I have been able to hold my tongue so much better. And it's so much more peaceful holding your tongue. Like someone says something that I disagree with, but I don't feel the need to just sit there and try to correct them because there's probably 100 other things that I disagree with them about, and I might be
Right.
right. But there's probably 1,000 things that they disagree with me about, and they might be right. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, I don't know. It's very. The words of the righteous are valuable. Wise people enhance others' lives with their mouth. Their wisdom causes others to succeed and feed their family. That's a principle I got out of there, man. I got to do this study again, bro. Should I just keep going?
Yeah, maybe do a few more.
Okay.
These are good.
Kind of having a chill little emergency Bible study. All right, so here we go. Wise people enhance others' lives with their mouth. Their wisdom causes others to succeed and feed their family. Say, wait, what kind of wisdom are you giving a person that allows them to succeed and be able to feed their family?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. You're giving people wisdom in their life that enables them to be able to provide for themselves. Proverbs? That's in the Bible? Interesting. Okay, next. When the Lord blesses, there is no guilt, shame, or hard feelings. A lot of times when they're blessed, they feel guilty. They're like, oh man, my life is so good. Some child in Africa is suffering. I just feel bad.
Right.
Anyways, next. When the blessed, oh, okay. The desire of the righteous will be given to him. The righteous speak wisdom because they know the right thing to do. Reverencing God prolongs days. Knowledge will save you. When the righteous succeed, everyone is happy. When the righteous people rule, the whole economy gets better, but wicked people destroy everything with their mouth. I'll just go through this page.
Okay.
You will succeed when you are mentored by multiple wise people. The more you give to the world, the more you will receive. But if you withhold from others, you become poor.
Hmm.
And one thing that comes to my mind is we often think in our mind that it just means if I have a job, I'm supposed to just give away my money.
Right.
It's like, no. Not saying that that's bad. But what do you have? Do you have a gift? Do you have a talent? And the more you give that gift, is there a book in you? Do you have music in you? A man's gift will make room for him. If you withhold what you have, you'll become poor. When you give generously, things will be given back to you generously. Don't withhold what you have to give. You are supposed to sell what you have, or people will be upset.
Mm.
You're supposed to sell what you have. When you try to do good, favor will find you. Let me go back to that one, though. You are supposed to sell what you have, or people will get upset. You're supposed to make money. You're supposed to sell something. You're supposed to receive. We're supposed to trade.
Mm-hmm.
Marketplace, man. When you try to do good, favor will find you. Foolish people will serve the righteous. Whatever the righteous produce brings life to others. Those who can win someone's mind over is wise. The righteous will be rewarded while they are on earth. Let me just go back one more time. Whatever the righteous produce brings life to others. So whatever you make, whatever you create, whatever you produce, it'll bring life to people.
Mm-hmm.
If you know how to win someone's mind over, you're wise. And then this one right here is the one that freaking people's minds go nuts. The righteous will be rewarded while they are on earth.
Mm-hmm.
The plans and thoughts of the righteous are right.
That's amazing.
Anyways. A man will be admired and commended formally and publicly for his wisdom. Man, bro. I'll stop right there. Any thoughts?
That's a lot. It makes me want to go back and study through Proverbs, like deep study to try to understand. Because I read through it, I get some stuff, but I just feel like there's stuff that I'm missing.
Oh, yeah. Man, hold on.
Huh.
Let me go back again. You feel like there's something you're missing?
Well, because I'll read the same stuff and I don't get the same.
Yeah, because.
But I'll get other things because I've done a study through Proverbs for, I don't know, a few months. I would read one chapter every day and I'd write down what I would get out of the chapter. But I'm like, it wasn't all that. Those are not all the things that I was getting out of it.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, you're getting some really deep principles that I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Oh, yeah, it's deep. Because the thing is like I always say, we often gloss over information because we just have punchlines in our brains. So if I just read you the passage as it's written, your mind's just gonna be like, oh yeah.
Yeah, like the thing with the spider, like, yeah.
Or like, for example, when the Bible says, or the one that I wrote where I said that he who can win someone's mind over is wise.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it really says he who wins souls is wise. But if you're a type of person who lacks understanding, you're going to think that that just means, oh, if I'm a soul winner, like if I get people to the altar, I'm wise.
Right, exactly.
So that's why I wrote it down. He who can win someone's mind over is wise, because that's what it's saying. It's not just talking about trying to win souls or being an apologist.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's talking about it takes wisdom to change someone's mind. And that could be in any setting, whether it's in a relationship, you're married, maybe your wife's giving you a problem, your husband's giving you problems, there's something you need to discuss, or maybe someone's in the wrong and you're trying to change their mind about a certain bad behavior, or maybe you're a car salesman and you're trying to convince someone to buy this car and you're trying to change their mind. You could tell they want to leave, but it takes wisdom. You got to be like, hey, instead of trying to force them to buy a car and trying to whatever, takes wisdom to get that person to turn back around and buy from your place, from your store. You have to convince this person that you're actually there to help them. And I worked at a car dealership for a month, and I see how these guys try to sell. They're like pressure selling people. But then the guys who they seem like they have your best interest in mind, and then they do research for you, and then they even give you advice. Like, hey, actually down the street, this same car, you could probably get it cheaper somewhere else because this other place probably has a used one. And then they're sitting there in their brain like, wait a second, you just told me that I can go get the same car somewhere else at a better deal.
Mm-hmm.
In their mind, they're like, hold on, I trust this guy.
Right.
So then now they really want to talk to you because they don't think that you're just trying to get money from them. But it took wisdom for that guy to just sit there and come up with that idea. Like, man, if I actually try to help these people, I actually try to help them. Not just try to make a sale, make some money. I could probably change their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes wisdom to do that. And so It can happen in so many different ways, but we just gloss over these passages in the Bible, and if I just read it word for word, it's just a punch phrase in your brain, and you just, oh yeah, I know that, yeah, yeah, yeah. But if I say what the principle of it is, all of a sudden you're like, oh, now you're understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have meaning. Now it's not just a nice phrase. Thoughts?
Okay, so say it's somebody who's out there in the YouTube world and they're like, okay, I'm going to open up the Bible and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to write down, like, I'm going to read this verse and I'm going to write down what I get out of it.
Uh-huh.
Do you recommend that? Or is it possible that they are misinterpreting when they write down? They're like, um, they read a passage. What if they get the wrong interpretation?
They should still write it down
What is why do you say that?
because they need to study it. They need to dig. I do that all the time.
So
Where
you'll write down, this is what I got out of it.
yeah, I'll write down what I got out of it, and then I'll go and study it. Like, this is what I got out of it. Let me study it.
Kind of like what you did. Like earlier, you said that there was something you had written down. And you're like, oh, there's a question mark. That means I needed to study some more.
Yeah, yeah. So let me make that point. Yeah, exactly. That's why some of these, when I'm writing down my notes, if there's something that I'm like, I don't know what that means, I write down a question mark next to it. I'll
Mm-hmm.
write down what I think I got out of it, but then but I'll write down, but I might be wrong, so that I put a question mark next to it, meaning I have to go and study that deeper and look further into it.
That's cool.
Yeah. I gotta study to show yourself approved, man. It's like, dude, the guys in the New Testament, all they had was the Old Testament as their Bible.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a New Testament to, like, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but we kind of like, oh no, just get rid of the Old Testament. Like, dude, all they had was the Old Testament,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had to. Anyways, so I'll do some more. How much time we got? Let me see. And it could come to a close here soon. A man will be admired and commended formally and publicly for his wisdom. Interesting. It's better not to esteem yourself highly than to pretend to be someone when you're broke. Work with what you have and where you are rather than be like others and fantasize. A man will have his needs met. Hold on. Is that what I wrote? I think that's what I wrote. A man will have his needs met when he uses his mouth. He will be satisfied with good things by what his mouth produces. When he uses his hands to work, he will be rewarded. Anyone who takes good advice from wise people are wise. Fools express their irritation. When someone who is street smart, prudent, wise, overlooks the problem and even conceals what they may really be thinking. Oh, hold on, let me go back. Someone who is street smart, prudent, wise, overlooks the problem and even conceals what they are really thinking. Let me. Oh man, I like that. Hold on. A fool expresses. A fool express. I write these things down so fast I can barely read my handwriting. A fool expresses their irritation. Someone who is street smart, prudent, wise, overlooks the problem and even conceals what they are really thinking. Man, got so many people out here who like. They just want to voice their thoughts. They just want to voice their opinion. They're just so quick to quick to judge, quick to say their 2 cents, quick to. It's deep, man. The righteous will never be harmed. Prudent, wise people conceal information. God conceals information. Bro, I've been putting this stuff to practice too. Life is so much more peaceful. Like, just concealing your thoughts to people. Like, everybody thinks that you need to just be open and honest all the time and just say exactly what's on your mind. And this right here, man, is like, but fools tell everyone.
But see, yeah, do in my own personal life, I've seen a lot of wisdom behind not just saying what I think. Because if I just say everything I think all the time, it's going to get me in trouble.
Oh, get you slapped.
Literally. And no, you just keep it to yourself. If they want to know, they'll ask.
Yeah, if they want to know, they'll ask. But then you
And
can
then
also word it in a way that
you still got
if you have discernment and you're like, even if I answer this question, I know they're going to be hostile. That's discernment, dude. So
exactly.
then you got to word things in a way where you still conceal it. You're not
Mm-hmm.
lying to them. It's just you know that they're not ready to hear whatever it is that you got to say.
Right. You can't say it exactly the way it came into your head because they can't take it that way.
Man, this is you, man. This is good stuff. Hold on. So, this is the stuff that makes me excited. So, prudent, wise people conceal information, but fools tell everyone. Those who work smart will be in positions of power, rulership, and lazy people are forced to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety will bring a person down, but a good word will lift them up. The righteous give counsel to their neighbor. Lazy people miss opportunity. The diligent recognize an opportunity and take it. Ooh. Let me say that again. Lazy people miss opportunity. The diligent recognize an opportunity and take it. You will be satisfied by what you produce with your mouth. Man, the soul of the diligent will be satisfied. The soul, your mind.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who look rich and have nothing, and there are people who are wealthy but look poor. Oh, I'm not even going to say where I got that one from. I want people to. Oh my gosh, man. I'm not even going to say where I got that one from. Your riches are like, can be like a ransom and get you out of bad situations. Poor people don't listen to correction. Let me say that again. Riches are like, and I put slash, can be like a ransom and get you out of bad situations. I, you're telling me I got that from Proverbs? What?
Mm-hmm. I know where it's at too. So if anybody wants to say it's not in the Bible, it is in the Bible. I know where it's at.
Okay,
Without looking at it, it's in there.
that's crazy. All right, so here's some more biblical smoke. You ready? Another principle that I got out of Proverbs: trying to get wealth fast without thinking first will vanish. I think that's what I wrote. Working and saving will guarantee a path to increase wealth. Interesting. When desires are not fulfilled, this is not good for the body.
I agree.
When desires are not fulfilled, this is not good for the body. When your desires are fulfilled, it brings life to the body.
Mm-hmm.
A faithful ambassador brings healing. Wise people bring life. Understanding brings favor. Poverty and shame is only guaranteed to those who refuse instruction and advice. Those who accept correction will be fully embraced by others. It's good for the mind and body to have your desires fulfilled. Those who stay around wise people are wise. Righteous people will be repaid for good things. A good person leaves a legacy for his children's children. Evil people's wealth, goods, and substance belong to the righteous. The righteous eat to be satisfied. I think I wrote some could mean the righteous enjoy their wealth and goods so they can be satisfied. Oh, whatever. That was a passage I needed to study. You might have to get dirty in your work, but it will produce and increase. It's not good to spend too much time with fools. They have no wisdom. The mind knows its own anger, evil, flaws. Fools believe the fools believe the first thing they are told. Oh my gosh, the wise carefully observe. Dude, biblical smoke. Hold on, bro. I said that in the first Bible study by accident. I remember in the first Bible study, I said, wow, what I say? Careful with my words here. I think I said something along the lines of very religious people. Many people just believe the first thing they hear.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that? They believe the first thing that they hear. I said that, man, in the name of Jesus Christ. And King Solomon said that too. He got that from me
Probably.
after he died.
Right.
I was
before
King
you were
Solomon's
born.
mentor. He said get a multitude of mentors. I was teaching him.
Yeah.
I went back in time and
I
taught
was gonna
King
say
Solomon all these principles.
you went through the time loop, and I mean,
Dude,
this is you
I went through
4,000
the
years later.
multiverse. I went through a portal, Doctor Strange. Went back in time, taught King Solomon all these things, and I told him, look, I am he that you've been looking for. I have the knowledge.
But why are you having to relearn all this now?
I'm not, well,
There's
shut
something.
up. So, almost done. Hold on, almost done. Okay. It's not good. It's not good to spend too much time with fools. They have no wisdom. The mind knows its own. Fools believe the first thing they are told. The wise carefully observe. The wise avoid evil and anger. Fools are cocky in their evil hatred. Wisdom knowledge is like a crown. Evil people have reverence for the godly, good people. Poor people are hated and undesired. Rich people have friends and are desired. Dude. King Solomon giving some smoke, bro. He said poor people are hated and undesired. Rich people have friends and are desired. When you are graciously giving to the poor, you are happy. Those who plan evil will become lost. Those who do good will be loved. I'll stop there on that. Any other thoughts before I end this stream?
Well, I wanted to offer one practical story. When you were talking about the desires that are unfulfilled, making the body sick. There's this guy that I know who, he was going to, I don't know, it's probably like 15, 20 years ago. He was going to start a church. There were principles he didn't understand yet. There was a lot of learning he realized later that he needed to do. But things didn't work out, and it actually did. He ended up physically sick as a result of trying to work hard and make everything work out. And I don't know, it was interesting whenever you were reading that. I was like, that person came to mind. And I'm like, yeah, he had a desire, but it was not that desire was not fulfilled. And it affected him.
Right. Wow. That is intriguing. So now that we're coming to a close, I have some final thoughts. I just showed so many principles right there, man, in Proverbs that I'm telling you, every time I show people this, if they believe in God, if they're Christian, they're shocked when I show them this. Mm-hmm. And then if they ask me, so what passage is this one? What passage is that one? What passage? And I show them, and then they'll be like, oh, every time they're like, what? Oh, wait, that's what that means. Oh, snap. Oh, I see it. Every single time. There's like shock, epiphany after epiphany. They're like, what the heck? And I'm like, dude, just do a little studying. Pay attention. You're reading your Bible a little bit too fast. Mm-hmm. You're just, I got to do my devotional. I'm not even into that whole concept, devotional.
Like you read somebody else's words, kind
Yeah,
of
reading someone
devotional,
else's words. That I mean,
or
I think just the idea of like my devotional, like it's kind of. I'm not saying this about everyone, but I'm just saying to me it just sounds like it's okay. I'm just opening up the Bible real quick, do a quick read. Okay, oh, okay, cool. Praise God, thank you. Put it
oh,
away. You're not really looking.
you're not reading it to understand. You're just reading it because this is what you do every
This is
day.
what you do. You're not looking to understand. You're just, oh, this is my morning routine or nightly routine. It's your devotion, your little prayer journal, and you're not really
Mm-hmm.
studying, not looking into Hebrew to Greek. You're not looking for historical context and meaning and analyzing it and reading it and then sitting there pondering it. Don't do a quick Google search on what it means. Don't just do Blue Letter Bible right off the bat. Don't do whatever it is. Just read it. Pause. What does this mean? Analyze it, like he says, the wise carefully observe.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just believe what you read just because you read it, because the way you read it might be incorrect. So people are like, you're telling someone to read the Bible, and then you're telling them don't believe what you read. So no, no, no. What I'm saying is don't believe your understanding of what you think it means. That's what I mean when I say don't believe the first thing that you hear, even
And
if it comes from me.
and that's why they should study, take their time to understand what it is.
Yeah. Study. Because there are so many things that I've had people ask me, so what do you mean by, there are things that you could be missing, like in your walk with Christ, in your faith, that, because I say, there are things you believe in Jesus, you believe in God, you go to church, you went to the altar, you pray, you do all these things, but is there something that you could be missing? And you got all these principles that are just, it's right in front of your face, but you're missing it because you're not seeking. And it talks about how God conceals a matter, and then it talks about how wise people, they conceal matters. And and
Mm-hmm.
and God is the wisest being in the universe. You don't think, and if we're supposed to reflect his image, and you as a wise person, you're supposed to conceal information at times. Don't tell people. Don't give them the secrets. Don't tell them what you're really thinking at times. God does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where he'll be like, and think about it. If God exists, there are things that you wish that you could know, but you don't know it because God hasn't showed you it. So he
Right.
obviously conceals things from you. And that's self-evident. You don't need the Bible to know that. That's self-evident.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he conceals things from you, and it's the glory of a king to hide to conceal a matter, but it's also the glory of kings to investigate it. Man, you should do some investigation.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, final thoughts?
I already said my final thoughts.
Awesome. Well, I brought all these books out so people could see, look, there's a lot of wisdom that you can get in books, and principles. You can find principles in books,
Mm-hmm.
expert secrets. Now, just because there might be principles that you disagree with, that you're like, I don't agree with that, because I read a lot of books. Even Miles Monroe, preacher. He's a preacher and a businessman, business consultant. Even him, I always say that I think that he was the wisest man in the 21st century. But even he says things that I disagree with. But am I disagreeing with him because maybe I just lack understanding and I don't know what he meant? Maybe I need to do some more searching. Or maybe he truly was incorrect on certain things that he said. I don't know. But we have to constantly be seeking, constantly searching, and not being combative and debating with people when it comes to our knowledge. You might learn a couple things and then all of a sudden you think I'm all that in a bag of peanuts now. I know everything. I read the Bible 2 times. I know it all. And the Bible says somewhere that we can understand all things. I said, well, hold on. I know it says that, but make sure you analyze what does it mean when it says you can understand all things. Because I want you to tell me right now, do you understand the laws of physics? entirely? Do you know quantum physics?
I don't. I don't fully understand it.
Like, holy cow! Do you know what created it? Do you know what an atom is made out of? Do you know why it was made out of whatever it was made out of? I'm studying the atom now because I heard someone talk about the atom, and it's something very interesting, and actually something deep and spiritual about that. Um, I I really, 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 really want to have as much wisdom as possible because you can't go wrong with it. You really can't go wrong. Like, yeah. And I like what Myron Golden says when people say, like, how much money do you want to make in life? How much money do you want to make? He's like, as much as possible. It's like asking how healthy do you want to be? As healthy as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to wisdom, I want to be as wise as possible. I want all the good things in life. I want it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I admit it. I want it all. I want to be big, strong, rich, powerful, wealthy, full of wisdom, full of God, full of righteousness, full of friends, full of good health, full of good experiences in life, full of love and grace and knowledge, and I want it all.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, y'all. So if that's selfish, what do you want me to do? Go get high or something? I don't know.
Maybe. Maybe that's what they want.
Like if I'm gonna do something, I want to move in this direction. Not
Like we would. I think there's a part of us deep inside that just desires to have the best quality of life.
yeah,
And that includes spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, just in like every area.
right,
We each have that desire.
for real. And being humble does not mean I'm broke and sad and poor and depressed and I constantly tell everybody openly about all my weaknesses all the time because I'm just such a broken person and I'm such a sinner and I'm just so lowly and come on, man. The Bible says let the weak say I'm strong.
Mm-hmm.
No, brother. Paul said I boast in my weakness. Okay, great. That was Paul. But did you read the part where it said let the weak boast in my and not the let the weak say that I am strong. Like, man, we got everybody wants to just talk about their weakness all the time. Like, come on now, let's get some strength now.
And what did Paul even mean by it when he says that he's boasting in his weakness? I know we're trying to end this podcast,
I know, right?
but when he's saying that he was trying that he boasts in his weakness, he doesn't even tell anybody what that weakness is. People are putting all of their personal business out there for everybody and their mother to know, and nobody wants their mother to know, but they're putting it all out there, and it's like it doesn't. Why?
Come on now, the wise conceal a matter. Y'all here going online, going live, telling everybody all the sins that you just committed last week. Like, bro, like keep that. What are you doing, man?
Because sins are like some people will be like, well, I need to confess my sins to one another. Like they'll say that.
Find people you trust, your homies that you know aren't going to go around gossiping and because it talks about you need to stay away from the talebearer. You need to remove that person, get rid of the gossiper in your life. Man, you're publicly going live, telling everybody all your weaknesses. Freaking 1,000 gossipers watching you on live, looking at like, oh wow, they got all these sins in their life. I can't wait to freaking falsely accuse them of some other stuff, man. So the wise conceal a matter. Oh my goodness, girl. Can't end it like that. How much wisdom do you need to stop making bad decisions?
Can I just say, in answer to that question,
Okay.
I have been studying nutrition since I was a teenager, and I still don't know much of anything. So when you ask how much knowledge, like I'm still not at my best health, I'm not at my peak health, and I have all of this knowledge on nutrition and how it works and how the body works, how the mind works. I know all of this stuff, but I'm still not healthy. So when you ask like how much knowledge do you need to get on any given subject, it's like this learning never ends.
For real.
It never ends. It's like, and then when you get obsessed with a certain subject, you're like diving into like a bottomless pit because it's almost impossible Like, say you take time to start studying finances. Well, you learn one little thing and then you get another nugget. And there's people out there, they're like, well, I made my first $1,000 in business. Then they're like, oh, now I made 10,000. Okay, I want to see if I can get 100,000. And then they just keep figuring out how to build that higher. It's a never ending journey, at
For
least in
real.
my experience, my mind.
No, I feel you. I feel you. So, wow. Well, that was a fun Bible study. It was fun going into principles. It was fun learning and talking about these things. And maybe you got something out of it. And again, keep this quiet. Don't tell anybody what you learned here. Keep it totally private. It's just between you and I. It's a one-sided friendship. I know. That's why you need to follow me on Instagram and Doozy Talks and subscribe to Doozy Talks YouTube channel as well. Go and subscribe. And I'm probably gonna start sharing more videos on. I think I'm gonna start uploading on Spotify and other platforms as well.
Ooh.
But I'm gonna do a little bit different thing. I'm gonna try something different. I want to try. I don't know. I'm debating on this, but
Do you have the same name on Spotify and
everything's
the
Creed
other
Podcast.
platforms?
Everything's
Awesome.
Creed Podcast.
I
But
only have YouTube and Instagram. Sorry, guys.
yeah, well, my goal is I want to start interviewing people, obviously, but then man, I don't know. I'm figuring things out. Learn as I go. Trying to get more wisdom. Need to read more books to really blow this thing up. But all right, y'all. God bless. It's fun tonight. It's pretty late.
See you next time.
Peace out.